My name is Jeff White, and welcome to the Jaws of Life podcast, episode 1. It is, let's see, what is the date? The date is April 26th, 2017. Like I said, I'm Jeff White. A little bit of an introduction. I was born in 1983 in New Jersey. 2 years old, moved to Northern California. My dad got transferred there. He worked for IBM. Grew up there till about 18, so pretty much I consider myself from California, spent my whole life in California growing up as a child. 18, actually at 17, I decided I was going to join the Marine Corps when I graduated high school. So when I turned 18 that summer, I went to boot camp. And that was the summer of 2001. And an event that September changed the whole entire outlook on the military and everything. Changed my whole life and all the events that followed. Mainly because when I decided to join the military, it was a peaceful time. It was a peaceful military, so the military was a peacetime military is different than a wartime military. But as soon as those events on September 11th happened, it changed that. And then by the time I got in what we call the Fleet Marine Corps, which was in 2002, we were gearing up to go to Operation Iraqi Freedom, which wasn't that when we went there, but that's what we were going there for in 2003. So joined the Marine Corps. Was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. That brought me to San Diego, California, which is where I reside still to this day. That put me on the West Coast. And the Marine Corps, if anybody knows about the Marine Corps is usually West Coast, East Coast. There's nothing really in the middle. And then there's also Japan. That is a permanent fixture, I guess you could say. And then, obviously, because we're Marines, we go around on Navy ships sometimes. But so in 2003, I went to Kuwait in January, and we prepared for the Iraq invasion. During Operation Iraqi Freedom, I deployed 3 different times, one for the invasion, then 2 times after that. My deployments ended about 2005. I spent about another year in the Marine Corps and then got out in 2006. My MOS in the Marine Corps was a 6227, and that is a F-18 engine mechanic. That's what I was formerly trained as. During the first 3 years, though, of my enlistment, I didn't really do that. I did other jobs because needs of the Marine Corps, and because all Marine are riflemen, and all Marines are essentially anything they need you to be at that time. I did most other things, embarkation, aviation material screening and stuff like that. That's if you know what that is. But if you don't even worry about it. So spent about those 3 years doing that. The last part of my enlistment, I did the jet engine. I built jet engines. And then when I got out in 2006, I got a job as a civilian contractor building jet engines. And I did that for 8 years after that. Worked my way up into a pretty high maintenance qualification. But at the same time, I was always kind of running a business, which is what JAW Industries is. JAW is my initials, so I'm the JAW in JAW Industries and the JAW in the Jaws of Life podcast. So did that for about 8 years, but essentially building and tearing down the same engine every day can get kind of boring. And I had been running this business. I was always into vehicles that I could operate, not vehicles that I did some work on and let somebody else operate. So I always kind of gravitated towards motor vehicles personal motor vehicles, so motorcycles, cars, trucks. Did some off-road stuff. Went to welding school through the GI Bill when I got out of the Marine Corps. Did full-time school for a couple years after, used up all my GI Bill. Did some photography classes. Took some other, I kind of got that college taste. I felt like there's a little bit of that. You kind of have to go see if you would have been good in college. I was not. I'm not good in school. Did good in my photography classes, though, because it's work. It was work. It wasn't sitting in a classroom listening to somebody talk all the time. It was you're actually doing stuff. So I usually thrive in those. But like I said, went to welding school and all that stuff. Kept doing the business. Kept working on people's cars, trucks, all that stuff, motorcycles. Somewhere along the way in there, I got married and divorced. That's how it goes sometimes. Taught me a lot about life. Taught me a lot about investing in other people. Taught me a lot. I learned a lot from it. Learned about mental strength and stuff like that through that. But then about end of 2014, I decided I was getting anxious about the whole jet engine building job and doing something else. So about the end of 2014, I decided I was going to leave that job. Some events happened at that place, and which kind of showed me that it was the time to leave. So I put in my 2-week notice and decided I was just going to go figure it out. So just had some money saved up and went off on my own. Had a mortgage, had a bunch of other bills at the time. I didn't care. I was going to figure. I told, people who would ask, like, what are you going to do? I'd be like, well, to me, the way I look at it is there's two different types of people. You've got people who are going to make something happen. There's people that are not going to make something happen, and they're going to just come up with excuses and stuff like that. I have always felt that I was going to if I want it to happen, I'm going to make it happen. Somehow, some way, I'm going to make it happen. So I decided, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to do what it is in my gut. I would always have learned throughout my life that if I follow my gut instinct, I will usually get by. It might take a bit, but I'll usually get by, get through it, succeed, and all that stuff. So I decided to follow it, and I just said, screw it. I needed a change. I needed something different. And sometimes you have to force that change. Sometimes you have to decide that it's up to you, and nobody else is saying. There are times your life can change through other people. Somebody can force the change, but when deep down it comes down to it and it's not happening, you've got to be the one to make the change. So I decided, boom, here's my time. I'm going to make the change. So I left the job, went off on my own, decided that I was just going to do all the things I was doing except minus the jet engine building, which, sounds easy, bit more difficult than you would think, and it's also difficult when you're making pretty good money doing that, but you're not happy, and sometimes money isn't everything. So I decided, let's go out. So I then started doing a bunch of other different little things and wrote some how-to articles for some automotive websites that I guess needed a bunch written for them, so I wrote all these articles. Then I had started about 2013 doing car reviews. I called them rental car rallies. I started doing them on my birthday. And I just was like, well, I'll just drive. I like driving. Driving is my thing. That is it. Driving is the thing. Everything else I do is to support that driving, the vehicle operating. That's what I like doing. So I was looking into seeing if I could get on these lists that automotive journalists are on, so that you can get journalist vehicles, get press cars. So I ventured down this road, read some articles. It references one company. I looked this company up. It had changed its name to something else. And so I figured it out. I went to the website, looked at the website. It had a contact where you could submit your information. So I submitted my information. Told them what I wanted, what I was looking to do. I didn't get a response right away, but a couple months later, I get this phone call. And this is like September or August of like 2015, I believe. So I had not even been gone from my jet engine job for a year. But I was doing my other things. I got a phone call and they said, "How would you like to get paid to talk about cars?" And I said, well, I love everything about cars, so of course, yes, I would love to. I love talking about cars. I was used to at my old job. I used to get yelled at for talking about cars, so might as well reverse that and actually get rewarded for talking about cars. So I worked a Jeep event in San Diego. They needed somebody in the San Diego area, which is kind of how I benefited from that. And I just started working for them. Ended up that really, if you look at it from outsiders, the position I was getting was they don't really offer it. It's a product specialist. They don't really offer it to people off the bat. They want you to work your way up from promo and stuff like that, promo specialist to that, and then they kind of work you into that job. But because of my technical background and knowledge of cars and stuff like that, they said that they could do that. So I did that. And then what I realized is that, wow, there isn't just this one event. There's all these other events that this company does within the automotive industry. I never really realized, but that ride and drives and stuff like that were done by third-party marketing companies. Didn't get the press car list stuff. That never even happened. Still hasn't happened to this day. But I got all those other events, and being a car person, not realizing that, wow, they don't have car people in this part of the industry. It doesn't exist. People are more brand ambassadors. They could put them in any brand. They'll talk about anything that you give them the information to talk about, but they don't really know about it. So I kind of stood out because I did know about cars, and then having the military background, especially being a Marine, you were very, let's say, gung-ho, and you go and you get stuff done. They like that. So I've advanced quite fast through there, got offered other jobs that they don't really offer. They have this kind of way you can get jobs offered to like the public people, but then there are the ones they offer to in private, and I got offered some of those. And I have worked some pretty outstanding events, met some really outstanding people who are really good at their job, and they're very obsessive about their part of their job in this industry. And I align with those people because I am obsessive about cars and stuff like that. So I've been able to do pretty well. Did some Maserati stuff, currently doing a Mercedes G-Wagon thing, which is exceptional for me because that is professional driving, and that is all I'm hired to do. And talk about the vehicle also, but primarily to be a professional driver. It's called the Iron Shekel. We drive people in a G-Wagon up and over this metal obstacle/structure and give people rides. And it's a demonstration of what that vehicle is capable of, even though most people are not going to use it for that. They like to demonstrate it because it gets people excited about it, gets people want to buy it. And that is probably my favorite thing to do to date, and hopefully will lead to other of those type of events. I would like to do more of those. But anyway, that has led me to here right now where I'm talking on this. That is the brief introduction. There's of course there's more to it than that, but that is me. And this podcast is going to be focused around me and my interests and my likes and what I think of my thoughts and stuff like that. I might have guests. So why this podcast? Because of that. Because I want to combine everything that I know that I like, all the stuff, all my interests. I feel they all kind of, in a way, tie in together somehow. I'm very into racing. I follow all different disciplines of racing throughout the seasons, and I do some racing on my own. And I find that competition is something that I thrive in doing, and also that it is a teacher to life. Sport, motorsports or any sport is a teacher to life. I'm also pretty interested in MMA. So I use their mentality and stuff like that to kind of, show myself what the warrior mentality is. And then being a Marine, you kind of have these warrior ethos that you've been taught. And so that kind of all aligns. And I find that MMA fighters are aligned with that. So I like to follow MMA. I like it because it's crazy and you never know what's going to happen. I could watch Tom Brady and the Patriots, and I'm probably going to say in my head, yeah, he's probably going to win. Somehow he's going to win. That's what and then it happens. But the thing about motorsport and the thing about MMA is anything can happen. And those are my main interests. Also, might talk about philosophies of life and things that can apply to other things. So you might be listening to this going, well, I don't want to hear about motorsport all the time, but maybe we'll talk about some life philosophy that might help you out, or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I'd like to see where this goes and what happens. If it's just me talking to myself, for right now it's me talking to myself, or talking to you, the people listening to it. In the future, I'd like to have some guests, or maybe even be a guest on somebody else's podcast. Who knows? But I think this is a good medium for doing something like this, for going through thoughts and stuff like that. I think we think about all these things during the day, and it's very hard to express them, to get them out. And I think a podcast is good for something like that. It's a good way to kind of hash all this stuff out and kind of put it out there. And it's good, I think, to record your thoughts over time, because then you can see the progression and the evolution of your thought process. So it's one of the other reasons I'm doing it. And then I'll put it up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is JAW Industries, so that everybody can listen to it if they want to. If not, it's then it's just for me. But I think most things in life should be just for you. And if other people like them, cool. So that's pretty much it. Myself and why I'm doing it, the podcast and stuff like that. But and a little bit about me. Of course, I'll go over more in depth about me later on. But going on to topics I would like to talk about. Number one being the current Formula One seasons, 2017. We're 3 races deep. We're about to have the 4th one this weekend in Russia. I'm fascinated by this season. I'm fascinated because we're finally seeing, Mercedes, who has been dominant since 2014, solely dominant. A couple times they've lost their footing, but they've gained it right back. And what we're seeing now is that they're being threatened. So they're it's one thing when a motorsport team or any sports team is out in front and they've got that gap and they can make little mistakes and it doesn't hurt them. But now that the gap has been closed, they can't make these little mistakes. It's harder for them. They don't have the same confidence that they did when they were way out in front. They've also been changed up. You don't have, as much as Nico Rosberg was not liked, he was very consistent as a driver. And the only time he really ever lost his footing was when Lewis Hamilton, who I believe is the better wheel-to-wheel driver, would threaten it. And that is where his fault was. But we saw last season he got it right. And when he finally got what he wanted, he left. I think Valtteri is a similar kind of a driver. He's very consistent, but I don't think he's as experienced with a car that can be, that can run at the top. And he's going to be threatened now. Now, it's harder for him to even get into it because he's going to be threatened by the Ferraris, and the Red Bulls seem to like they're catching up. And we'll see, come this race. This next race is, it hasn't been going on for that long, but notoriously isn't that easy to overtake. They say that a lot. So we'll see what happens. I think, we don't. It's kind of nice because we don't know, and that's what it should be. We should not know who's going to win, and when it's up, when it's up in the air. That's what makes it really exciting. If you know who's going to win every weekend, then it's not really that exciting. So we'll see. But I'm pretty interested to see the rest of the season. I'm interested to see Fernando Alonso, how well he's going to do in Indianapolis. It's in the past, it's been good for Formula One drivers to go and race in Indianapolis. In Indy cars, it seems to be that they kind of, they do very well. Historically. So we'll see what happens. But it would be kind of cool to see him, contend for a Indianapolis, at least be up there, and who knows? It's possible with Andretti Autosport. I mean, they're one of the number one teams. They can put a car together. And Fernando is not too shabby of a driver, as we see when he's throwing that McLaren around. He's pretty feisty. He knows how to protect his space. He knows how to overtake. Two-time world champion, so he's not a slouch of a driver. And we'll see what happens. Other parts of motorsport that I gravitate towards, especially, is World Rallycross and Global Rallycross, because I believe right now that is a mixture of a lot of different disciplines, and it's very competitive because the cars are still in a kind of a development type, and you can't really have a car that's going to dominate that easily because of the different surfaces and stuff like that. I think that's what's great about that racing. It's very fast. I like sprint style racing. The karting that I do, they have sprint races, and then they also have a super series. They also do an Ironman, which is an hour-long race, but I don't do that one. I do the sprints. And because when you go out there, it's like from green flag to checkered flag, you've got to go, you've got to go. You can't take the time and sit back and rest. And I like that. And that's what I like about the format of World Rallycross, is that it is green to checkers, go. There's no holding back. And I like that. It's fast. It's good for short attention span, which I could tend to have sometimes. I also really like Stadium Supertrucks. Same thing. I'm not really too fond of yellows to bring everybody together. I think, you've got to let people not rely on that to bunch everybody back up. But, I don't know. Maybe that'll change later on. Both are racing series that I would, in the future, like to get involved in, doing driving. Global Rallycross, some sort of Rallycross or a Stadium Supertruck, or both. Everything. It seems to be relatively inexpensive, like I said, relatively, and it would be something interesting, to I think, it's my kind of style. It's very aggressive. It's a very even playing field, and is essentially starting. I'm 34 years old. Starting later in life in racing, you're kind of, I don't want to say anything's impossible, but it's pretty unlikely I'm going to be a Formula One driver, because of, those guys are working towards that since they're little kids. So starting later in life, I think you are reality shows you that, okay, I have to focus and set sights on something that is a bit more attainable there. Not saying, man, if I got the opportunity to do something, like Le Mans or other types of series, I would do them. But let's be real. We have to be somewhat real. And I just think that the style of racing probably suits me better anyway. Being the aggressive style that it is, I feel that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm looking at. Currently, right now, I'm building. I need, I've thought a couple years ago, like getting involved in motorsport is extremely expensive, and there's probably nothing. I build vehicles also, and I always think that the best vehicle you could ever have is one that you've built, because you build it exactly the way you want it. I built a bike to my spec a couple years ago, and it was one of the best. It was a 92 Harley Softail. One of the best bikes I've ever ridden. It really was. I mean, not just saying that because I built it, but when I was done with it, I rode other Harleys, new Harleys at the time, 2014. Rode those Harleys, and they just didn't feel the same. And I think that there's something, when you build it piece by piece and you decide what parts are going to go in it and why, and you piece together all this stuff. And you can see some of my videos of this bike that are on my YouTube channel if you're interested in it. But I spec'd it myself, and it did, from my head to that bike, did everything I needed it to do, and did it the way I wanted it to do it. So my thing was, well, okay, but the problem at the end is that you don't have I didn't have anything to do with it. I was like, okay, I build this bike, and I'd take it to some shows, and, people would look at it and say, oh, that's a really cool bike. Okay, cool. But then there's always this like missing piece, like, okay, well, I want to do something with it. I want to, take it and go compete and do something in that kind of, realm of the automotive field. When you're done with the, vehicle, you want to take it out and see what it can do against other vehicles. So I decided, you know what? I bet probably the best way and most accessible way for me to get into motorsports is for me to build a race car. So I kind of initially went out and like, well, what could I get to build and stuff like that, and then eventually just was like, well, I'm an idiot because I have a truck that I've had. It was bought by my parents brand new in 1980. We had it all growing up. My mom was taken to the hospital in it when she was giving birth to me. It was my first vehicle when I turned 16. It was the first vehicle I ever modified and did anything to and made it my own. So there's no better candidate than that vehicle. So currently I am rebuilding it. It is a long process. It's all fully disassembled, and now I'm starting to powder coat suspension pieces so I can start reassembling it. That's pretty much the next step. It is getting a LS1 and 6-speed manual transmission out of a 2001 Trans Am. So it will be built to my spec, this current spec, and then I will evolve it into my plan right now is to do Pikes Peak with it. So after I get it going, my ultimate goal is that I will build a vehicle that is street legal, that I can drive to Pikes Peak and do Pikes Peak and drive it home, as kind of a showcase of everything. I always call these vehicles, whenever you do a vehicle like this or like the bike that I did, these are like final exams. This is like, okay, put it all down, everything that you've learned into this vehicle right now at this point in your life. And these vehicles showcase everything that you know, all of your experience, everything. And so I think the good thing about this is it will showcase all of my build and mechanical experience, and then also showcase the driving. Because since 2013, I have focused on becoming a better driver. So focusing on the craft of driving fast, and focusing so that I have taken on some driving schools and been to some race schools and tried to get as much seat, experience as possible. The karting was to add wheel-to-wheel experience. Everything else was let's try to go fast. So now I believe the truck is the thing that will put all that together. I also currently have a bike I'm working on, another bike, a 93 CBR. It's a Honda 900RR. There's a video which you can look in my YouTube channel. I just recently got it to run. To me, I looked. I was like, okay, let's see. Let's do $1,000 challenge. Let's see what could I get for the most bike I can get. I explained in the video the most bike for the cheapest amount. And I found this CBR, and it wasn't running. And it's kind of risky when you do something like that because you don't know if it even runs or if it has a possibility to run. But you kind of just go with your gut. And I looked at it and I was like, well, it's all here, so it probably runs. I don't know how good. Hopefully there wasn't anything internal with the motor that was wrong. That was the real crapshoot because you don't know and you can't see in it and you're not going to take it apart there. So, but I figured, say it didn't run and it had an internal problem, the parts alone were worth more than $1,000. So if at the end I go to start it and it doesn't run, I could just part it out. Good thing was it did run and still does run. And slowly I'm gonna get it back to roadworthy status, rebuild the front forks and new tires and new chain and all this stuff, powder coat the wheels and do some other things and get it rideable. And then eventually, once it's rideable, I will start kind of modifying it to fit my style, my way of doing things. But it's just another project to work on. And I think having two projects is probably good because when you're waiting on something for the other one, like right now I'm waiting on a ball joint socket for the Dodge truck. It's a Dodge D150, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. But I'm waiting on a socket for that so I can take the ball joint out of the upper control arm. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm working on the bike and then vice versa. So it's kind of nice. So getting that all, squared away and set up and everything. So we're, eventually I will have the vehicles going and they'll be using them, and then probably going to sell the bike. I will keep the truck and then eventually get myself to Pikes Peak and do Pikes Peak and then, put that other thing in there, and it's a long process. It's sometimes I can see why a lot of people give up in something like this, because you know where you're trying to get to, and it's just like all the stuff that gets in the way on your way there. It can be, overwhelming. I try to take it one little puzzle piece at a time, and I think that's what keeps me going. And also knowing that I've done it before, and like, okay, well, the feeling when you're done and you ride that vehicle for the first time, and it's going, and you get it dialed in, and it's like that whole process is very rewarding. And there's a reason why it's rewarding. It's rewarding because it's so damn difficult to do. It's not easy. It takes a lot of money that you're probably not going to get back. If I look at the bike that I built and the time and stuff, I price wise what I got, and I priced everything out. Yeah, I kind of broke even, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's not really worth it financially, but you learn so much. And then it becomes kind of like a little business card. When people see it, they're like, oh my God. And you go, yeah, well, I did this and I did that and I did this. And if you want me to do that to your bike, I can do that. But, and this is what that looks like. Not just out of my head and trying to get you to imagine. I can show you, like, oh, I built this, made this rear fender. Would you like one for your bike? Or piece together this brake system. Would you like one for your bike? And here's how it works. And you can see that it's actually good and it works. And your theories actually, are true. And these projects like this help to do that. At least that's the way I've found them to do. I don't think I could do the whole vehicle manufacturer, do a run or something. I think I seem to get very tired of doing the same thing over and over again. It seems to be something that I've learned about myself, is that I don't like monotony. I don't like doing the same thing every day. And so when I change it up, I tend to enjoy those things better if I don't have to do them all the time. The bad part about that is it's hard to be consistent like that. It's hard to build skills like that. It's hard to, but not impossible. It just takes a little bit more effort. So you have to put some more into it. But anyway, that's that. And those are my projects right now. Let's see, we're at about, what are we at? What are we sitting here? Sitting at about a half hour. Let's see, if I can't think about anything else to talk about right now, I'm going to have to start making lists about these things. And then I felt like I had enough of a topic. Let's see, what else have I done recently, or what else has come out? Let's talk about this new season of Top Gear. This new season of Top Gear, the second season after the breakup of the original three, or so I know people don't consider them the original three, but to me, for the successful Top Gear, they are the original three. They are the ones who, when you hear Top Gear, you think about, Jeremy, Richard, and James. So the first season after, I thought was kind of, they had all the pieces, I felt. I just didn't think that I think they had too many pieces. They had too many answers to what they were going to do to try to make it successful. I didn't think Chris Evans was that good of a host. I think he tried a bit too hard. But either way, even if he didn't try that hard, I don't know. To me, he didn't. He was a great guest on the old Top Gear. For the new Top Gear, I didn't think he was the best host. But what did come out of that is that Matt LeBlanc is not a bad host. I think it's good that they stuck with him and they said, okay, well, we'll let him refine himself. And I think this season he has done that. The last episode was this last Sunday. Very good segments. Still not warmed up to Rory Reid yet. But, I think he's good for a bunch of different people. And I think that's what he brings to the table, is he can appeal to a very wide audience. Of course, my favorite is Chris Harris. Chris Harris is focused on driving. He's focused on technical stuff. I've been watching his videos for years, probably for as long as they've been out, because he talks to me. When I'm listening, I feel like he's talking directly to me. He's talking about things I'm interested in. He has a driving style, and does things with vehicles that I want to do, and that I aim to do, and that's what I want to see. And also when he was just doing videos with him and Neil Carey, I thought they were, man, those were good videos, and they still are good videos, and they still do their own separate Top Gear videos, and that are pretty much Chris Harris on cars, just put on the Top Gear website, and it's amazing stuff. And I think they're great, and it gives me something to kind of strive for. And I think he is probably one of the best additions to this new series of Top Gear, because he's just being him, And I think that he hasn't even changed. Like it's funny because sometimes when people get a position like that, they kind of go like, well, what do I got to do to? And he just seemed like he just went from one thing to the next and didn't change anything up because he didn't need to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Nothing was broken. So to him to kind of move over and do that, and get a position like that was kind of cool to see, because I don't think that position would have been offered had the other three not went away. So it's good to see him getting probably the recognition he deserves, for being as good of a driver and presenter as I think he is. And hopefully someday maybe I can have some sort of position like that. I have done some little bit of film stuff with the automotive industry, being, the product specialist and stuff like that. And I do like film. I like having to put it all together, in one, and try to convey what I believe. Because I do think, I don't know, the way I look at vehicles and stuff like that is somewhat unique in a way. And I think that when I talk to people about vehicles, I say some things that makes them kind of go, huh, I didn't really look at it like that. So eventually I would like to have more of a focus on those and be able to display more of that. And that's why I do the videos. It is costly, because I do pay out of pocket to do the videos. But that's fine, and I enjoy it, and I get to drive different vehicles here and there. I have another one I'm going to be working on here, coming up in the next couple of weeks, on the new Bolt EV. I have an idea. I've been working with the new Bolt EV, and I think it's an exceptional car, and I think it's probably the best electric vehicle for the everyday person made so far. I think Teslas are great in their concepts, but it's kind of offered at a higher price point and not offered to wide market, where the Bolt EV, and the one thing kind of keeping any other electric vehicle from hitting a wide market is their range. I mean, 80 to 100 and something mile, not even really. It just didn't seem like it was a good idea to even get one unless you were just driving around town and where you live. But this Bolt EV, 238 mile advertised range, that is something that could work for people. And not only that, but it's practical. And I'm not the person to only buy a vehicle because it's practical. I mean, it is nice to have that. It's an added bonus. But this Bolt EV actually does drive really well. I think its limiting factor is its tires. Those low rolling resistance tires they're not very grippy. But I don't think people are going to be pushing it to really exploit that. But I do think as a vehicle, as a mobility, as for something to get around, it's probably one of the best vehicles out there that Chevy has come out with in the last 20 years. Because they have kind of struggled with the everyday person's vehicle, the Toyota Corolla or the Camry even. They don't even, the Malibu has been successful, I guess, but it just doesn't, it's not a Camry or a Corolla. And we can all come up with theories as to why that is, but I'm sure, we can throw reliability and other styling and stuff like that in there. But at the same time, they haven't had anything that's hit it. And I think the Bolt EV is that vehicle. I think it does. It's you got to drive one. You got to see what it's like. It's a little hatchback kind of they say it's crossover. I'm thinking it's a hatchback. But I just think that the combination of everything makes it a pretty exceptional vehicle. and I enjoy driving it. And I'm going to do something. I have a little idea of something I'm going to do with it to kind of showcase something that I think is kind of being overlooked. It's not really being focused. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's not being. So I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to give it away. I want it to be a secret. But you'll see, and that'll be a video I do. Trying to do it next in the following week, so the beginning of May, and then have it posted to my YouTube. But you'll be able to see, and hopefully kind of sheds a different light on the Bolt EV. See, right now we're at about 40 minutes. Let's see, what else do we got going on right now in the automotive industry? I know a lot of racing series are starting, or at the beginning of them. Yeah, but that, you know what? I think that's pretty much it for now. I think we're gonna leave it there. And anything else I forget and realize that I forgot, I will save for the next one. So we're gonna leave it there at about 40 minutes, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. I hope that I can make these better over time, and I can progress and make it something that's people want to tune into and listen to. And we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to try to do these. I don't know if I'm going to give myself, you need to do one every week, or you need to do one. I'm going to try to, we'll see. Sometimes if I don't do that, I won't be disciplined enough with it. But I'm going to see. I'm going to see what happens. Maybe we'll do one once a week. So this will be, the first one for this week. And maybe, you know what, I'll do the video for the Bolt EV, and I'll do one after that to kind of recap and stuff like that. After I post the video, I'll do kind of like a podcast about the video. But yeah, anyway, check out, my YouTube channel, JAW Industries. If you stumble across this podcast, check out the other, and you're interested in other things I do, go check out my other videos. You can go check out also jawindustries.com. And I know sometimes that kind of goes together. And people say Jaw Industries, but that's okay if you say it like that. Really though, it is JAW Industries because those are my initials, and that's why I, named it like that. There's no fancy, crazy names going on here. It's just that simple. But anyway, there you go. Go to jawindustries.com. You can also find my stuff on Instagram. I like taking pictures, so Instagram is kind of my thing. I'm more an Instagram than a Facebook. Facebook, to me, there's a lot of people bitching about nothing. Or bitching about things they think is something, but it's, I don't know. A lot of armchair quarterbacks, let's say, on the Facebook. So, but you can go to my Facebook. It's Jeff White. You can also go to Twitter. That's at JAW Industries. That's my Twitter. And if you want, follow along, and maybe I might post something that you find interesting. So, anyway. That's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you guys tune into the next one. So see you later, and make sure to watch that F1 race this weekend, because you're gonna want to. Because I bet it's gonna be interesting. So have a great day, and I will see you next time.